And welcome to another episode of the Five Star Revolution podcast, the number one pro wrestling podcast in Southern Vermont, the only Southern Vermont pro wrestling podcast. So that's why we're number one. We're that good. I am your host, Vic Muscat. Along with me, as always, the six-star general of the show, CJ Price. Mr. Price, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Thanks for asking. Thank you for having me once again. This is our sixth episode, and tonight we are not interviewing a pro wrestler like we usually do. We're gonna interview a pro podcast at this time, and some of you might know him. It's Mr. Don Kincaid. How you doing, Don?
Thank you so much, Mr. Price, Mr. Muscat. I cannot thank you. I truly say I cannot thank you enough for inviting me to your brand new project, getting some fine talent. And I shit myself when you were like, hey, you want to be on the cast? I'm like, of course I do. So I thank you guys so much for bringing me on with the talent you guys have been bringing, you know?
Yeah, man, we didn't have to pay him to say that.
Well, I do really appreciate you. This is the first time I've met Vic. I know Mr. Price. We have a shaky history, if you will, when it comes to fan and professional wrestler. Maybe we can get in a little bit of that. But it's the first time meeting you, and it's a pleasure, my friend. A pleasure.
It's nice to meet you too, sir. I've seen a couple of your YouTube videos. You're funny. I saw that. I saw your videos and I was like, yeah, he's one of us.
Well, first off, I thank you for watching at least one episode. I appreciate that. We just like to have fun. That's what wrestling's all about, you know?
So what's your earliest memory when it comes to professional wrestling?
You know, I want to say, because I remember this one very vividly. Obviously, you watch wrestling with your pops, your gramps, your gram, your mom, or whoever kind of is already in the wrestling. That's how a kid usually gets into it. For me, it was my dad. And for some reason, though, I don't really remember vividly watching the tube, watching the television before this one event. This is what really sticks out to me for my first memory of wrestling is 1978 Bristol Central High School. My dad took me to a live event, WWF at the time. I'm sorry if Uncle Vince monetized you. I'm so sorry. And it was a fantastic time. I'm 8 years old, and it's very larger than life because obviously I've been watching it on TV with my dad. So, but the TV, again, I don't know why it's fuzzy before this event. But, man, this event was really something for me. And two matches really stick out. The co-main event and the main event. It's Tito Santana and Ivan Putski as a tag team going against the Wild Samoans with, of course, Captain Lou Albano by their side leading them down to the ring. And then the main event was the champion, El Champion. My man, Bob Backlund was a champion. I mean, the forever champion back then. He was a champion going against Bob Orton, Cowboy Bob Orton, Randy Orton's dad, for you that don't know. And my God, that event, Mr. Muscat, Mr. Price, that event right there, for some reason, it just really stands out. And from there, that's all I was a wrestling fan. I wanted more. And then I started, remembering the stuff on TV when I'm sure not saying age or anything, but I'm sure we had TVs back then where you only had dials.
Yep.
One had bigger numbers, a little less space, a little more space in between. Those were the major networks. Screw that dial. We're the magic. We're the gold that you could find for wrestling was in that tiny little dial that just went, and it had about 1,000 channels. You can only get 2 or 3, but my God, when you found some staticky, shitty looking wrestling, you stopped on a dime and you sat there and you were watching it like it was crystal clear. And I love that shit. The AWA, this WCCW, the NWA. That was my stuff, man. That was my stuff, and I loved it so much, man. I'm sorry, I'm getting excited. Wrestling gets me into it.
Who were some of your favorite wrestlers at the time?
Well, you know, and I know everybody has their favorites. Everybody comes up in different eras. And when I've done interviews, and I'm sure you guys can maybe attest to this, all depending on the age of your interviewee, if you will. A lot of it has been the Attitude Era coming up, the Stone Colds, the Rocks, and the Cenas, and Shawn Michaels and stuff like that. I get a lot. My jam, again, we go back. I'm talking like the Bob Backlunds, the Pedro Moraleses, even Pat Patterson back then, because he was very active when I was younger, growing up into wrestling. But my fave, and this is going to come off different probably than everybody else. My favorite, he could tell a story if he was good guy, bad guy, heel or face. Everything he told you, again, face or heel, you would believe. But when he was a heel, he would scare the living absolute fucking shit out of me, and that was Don Morocco. I love me some Don Morocco, my all-time fave, and that's who I put. If you have to pick a fave, I would have to go Don Morocco.
Don Morocco, former Intercontinental Champion.
That guy, physique, the look, what he brought to the table, when he opened his mouth on that microphone. I mean, my goodness, Mr. CJ Price, he knows what the microphone is all about and what it's entailed and that part of the puzzle in wrestling. And my God, Don Morocco could freaking talk. Really good, though. But that old school vibe. And I know, again, we talk different eras. And I revert back to them because that's when I grew up. You know? So for me, man, Don Morocco's the shit. I love me some Morocco. And you know what? He's had managers behind him. Did he need them? Maybe, whatever, because he could talk. But man, they just added that little bit more of an element that you never knew you were missing with Don Morocco until they got behind him.
I remember Don Morocco. I mean, I'm 44, so I'm not too far behind you.
But good times, though. Good era to come up with. Because, you know, that wasn't obviously the start of wrestling. But it's kind of maybe midpoint to where we are right now. And I find, and I'll use MLW just because they have the Von Erichs right now. Back then, the feud between the Freebirds and the Von Erichs, it gives me absolute chills just speaking about it right now. But it was the crowd's reaction, Mr. Muscat, because if you look back at that old footage, you watch these matches. Yeah, there's no flippy doos. There's no spot monkeys. There's no what we see now. And I get that. Maybe a lot of the fans dig that now. But tell a story from week to week on television every single week. Not a lot of guys and girls can even do that today.
Right.
And it's very hard. And back then, that Freebird Von Erich feud, I lived for that shit because they told a story all the time. They left you hanging with cliffhangers. They left somebody bloody. You wanted to know what was going to happen the next week every single week. And I love that stuff.
Yeah, it was like a different feel compared to what it was today.
And I know I slipped in those three letters real quick, MLW. Now, pre-COVID, when they got the Von Erichs on their roster, and the old man, Kevin Von Erich, came in those doors and was on the TV screen with these kids, the crowd, Mr. Muscat, the crowd, the way they were going off and sounding just reminded me so much of those WCCW days with their crowd. It was so uncanny how it sounded to me. And that's what really got me into MLW was hearing that crowd with that vibe. It was like, holy shit, this is just like old school wrestling. And I know I'm yammering because, hey, I got some Pepsi and I can talk wrestling. But that's that shit that I really, really love is that old school feel. And it was A, for the wrestling, B, for the storytelling, C, the characters. But my God, it was for the crowd. You know, without that. And we're feeling that right now. The crowd's coming right back post-COVID, if you will. But damn, the crowd would lose their absolute shit when there was some ruckus outside the ring going down the walkway to the curtain. We would lose our damn ever-loving minds. we are so we're so how do I put it? The awe factor, the shock value. We've seen so much over the course of wrestling.
Yep.
It's not like that anymore. So when I seen the crowd react like that in MLW, Mr. Price, I'm like, I got to start watching this stuff. And that's what drew me to a company like MLW. Obviously, they have good talent, but it was the crowd that got me.
So we talked about how you got into wrestling. Do you remember your first ever wrestling event and what happened in that event?
Well, part of that answer was that because of how much of an impact it gave me as a child, being a wrestling fan, because I'm only 8 years old, 1978. So yeah, I see stuff on TV through the static and stuff, or whatever you get to get a clear signal, maybe holding up the antenna for the old man so we can watch it or whatever. But that event at Bristol Central High School, 1978, I will never, ever forget. And I know there was more in a card, and I almost want to say there was like Dominic DeNucci was on that card. Gorgeous. I almost want to say Gorgeous George for some reason. That's been sticking out as I've talked about this event a few times during my interviews talking to other wrestlers. But those two matches with Ivan Putski, Tito Santana going against the Wild Samoans with Captain Lou and Bob Backlund going against Cowboy Bob Orton. My God, it was, again, it reverts right back to what I was just speaking of is, that era of wrestling. Very, very enthralled in storytelling. And you didn't get, and that was another big difference about the era of then and now. There wasn't a lot of young talent. Everybody almost looked like kind of middle-aged dudes that would just F you up if you walked into the bar. A lot of that stature. Look at Adrian Adonis. I mean, he wouldn't get signed today because of his physique. But back then, you wanted these guys that were burly, thick, that when you look at them, you're like, I don't want to mess with that guy. Where there's a lot of the younger talent, the Young Bucks, I'll use as a prime example. That would have never, ever been seen back then because of the way wrestling was. So that storytelling for me, going to that, and I remember, you know what I remember very vividly though? There was this smell about the place, the bleachers. And I don't know if it was because it was unkempt, if you will. I mean, it's Bristol Central, that's where I went. But there was like a smell. I can almost remember that smell of the place because, I don't know, it was just a vibe about it that I really remember. But Bob Backlund, I always wanted to say was my favorite. Going throughout my childhood, I said, Bob Backlund. But as I got older, Don Morocco, oh man, seeing him more and more, kind of put him over the top for Bob Backlund because Bob Backlund was a very, very high fan favorite, back then. We're talking late 70s. There was no Hulk Hogan, Hulkamania running Wild Brother and all of that crazy stuff, that commercialized stuff, because that's where, obviously Vince Jr. took it, so the old man was still running the show back then. So it was more of a real, and I'm not going on a cornet thing, because I agree with a lot and I disagree with a lot that he says. But he's so very true. The storytelling was so much different back then than it is now, And you've seen it firsthand as a wrestler.
Yes, I have. And my next question for you is, you're such a huge wrestling fan. You've been watching wrestling for years. How come you never got into the sport? You never trained to be a wrestler?
Well, I know we've only gone through 2 questions, and I apologize for yammering like a motherfucker, but
don't worry about
it. Me getting into the ring, I'm just going to do this for a visual, if you will. My hand, my wrist. Watch this.
No, come on.
Okay, like I am built. I'm built like a candle. I'm built like a kendo stick. I'm built like a plank. I'm built like a piece of thread. So I would, it looks a lot of fun, but
you could have been a manager, you could have been a ref, you could have been an announcer.
I was this close to jumping into being the manager portion of the program as I was doing this stuff. Maybe about 2 years ago, I was about that close to maybe pulling the trigger on doing some stuff. But if you want to be a manager, you want to be a referee, you want to be, and I know ring announcer is a different part, but it's still part of the industry. I feel because of who I've talked to, how I've seen things happen, and I get the honor and privilege of being behind the scenes a little bit more than maybe some other fans do, or even at all. An honor and a privilege. I will always use those two words for me to go across that line as a fan and be part of your guys and girls world will always just have a place in my heart that I'll never forget. Off topic though, I'm sorry. But getting back there and seeing just like, if you don't take a bump, you don't get that training. If you're a referee and you're not feeling that, you're not experiencing taking, the bumps, doing some drills. Look at Ref Kevin Quinn. Are you kidding me? The dude is jacked and he works out every single week with the boys and girls in the ring to this day.
Wow.
I don't know if I could be that guy, especially at my age, when I wanted to pull the old trigger on being part of the industry. Because, I was just about on the cusp of 50. My joints, my bones, they're a bit brittle, my friend. So I felt that I would be disrespecting the profession, the industry, if I did not go through some kind of training. And I know I could have had some open doors. Hey man, we can just let you in. We can give you some training of how to act, where to stand, what to do, what not to do, maybe some verbiage, and stuff like that. And I would absolutely love that. But again, without proper training first, to be honest with you, Mr. Price, Mr. Muscat, I feel personally, my opinion, that I would be disrespecting the industry by not going through that process first. So that's why I never really jumped into the industry.
Okay, I appreciate that answer, man. It does take a lot of training, a lot of focus, and a lot of dedication to whatever you do in the professional wrestling business. As you already know, you do podcasting. So let's talk a little bit about that. You've done many episodes with various wrestlers from around the world. So let's talk about a little bit about that. Who was your favorite interview so far? I know you don't want to put anyone on blast or throw anyone under the bus. But I would love to hear what was your favorite episode and what you learned along the way.
This is going to totally surprise you. And you know this person, I do believe. Now, the talent that I have been able, the privilege and honor to want to speak with me. And now stirring the pot, it actually started as a face-to-face. I was going to the talent's homes or maybe their getaway spot, or they would invite me to a park or something because they don't want me to know where the fuck they live. I don't blame them. I wouldn't want me to know where they live either. But since COVID happened, I got 25 episodes deep. Then COVID happened. So now you got to figure out what the hell do I do? Because I would still like to talk to the talent. And when I mean going face to face, I've actually gone 2 hours one way to do an interview. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I mean face to face, it's not like I'm driving down 15 minutes down the road to some one local cat that I know. I was driving. I was doing the drives as I would be going to the shows. It was no different. Okay. So when COVID hit, I was like, what the frick do I do now? So I started poking around. How can I keep? That was my biggest thing. I want to be able to keep footage. Now, Zoom, you can do 40 minutes for free. And then after that, you have to buy into the old package. I didn't want to do that, but Zoom was exploding like an MFer. But I didn't want to have to pay into a package because obviously, Mr. Muscat, I know we just met. Mr. Price, he knows I can yammer. And obviously your viewers just found that out in the last, what were we, like 15, 20 minutes deep. I can go, man. When it comes to wrestling, I can yammer. So I didn't want to have to pay into it. So I tried a different few avenues to maybe screen record stuff. That wasn't working out either. Bumped into Skype, started putting it out. Hey, I'm going to do this instead of that now. I got more of a reach than I ever thought of in 1,000 years. Holy crap. That was the best idea I ever did. That was so awesome. Now, my favorite interview, and this, again, I'm going to go back to, this is going to probably surprise you. So much talent. And again, I don't want to put no slight on anybody because I've had so much fun with every single interview I've ever done. And we are at, let me see, at COVID, March 2020, I was at episode 25. My first Skype obviously would be 26. We are at episode 278. All right. I did at one point in 5 weeks, I did 115 interviews in 5 weeks. 3 a night on the weekdays after work. When I would come for the weekends, it was 4, 5, or 6 on a Saturday, 4, 5, or 6 on a Sunday. So I was averaging 25 a week. 5 weeks, I did 115, and I remember that Mr. Tyler Jones was my last one, and I took a break, boy, because I needed it so bad. But out of all the talent, and I know I'm running around the question, I'm filibustering. Chris Cannon, he was episode 13, and he was episode 1, 2, I can't remember the second time because he's only had 2 interviews. Oddly enough, anybody on this, and out of every single person on this planet, I happen to be the guy who's interviewed Chris Cannon twice. Now, for a few reasons. A, he's as real as it fucking gets. Boys and girls, I know you don't know of him. Some of the local guys that do know Mr. Price might, because I'm from Connecticut and he's from, I believe, still Massachusetts. Yes, sir?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Muscat, I must say off the top of this interview, I shit just a little bit. I did not know you guys were doing this via Vermont. I'm like, wait, I wish I would have known that because I have some friends up in Vermont that I wanted to maybe, never mind, that's a different story. I got you. But anyways.
We'll do something.
Chris Cannon, for those that don't know, as real as it effing gets. Ex-military, drill instructor, a guy you do not want to trifle with on the streets. For real, legit. Do not want to mess with this guy. Wanted to become a professional wrestler a little bit later in life. Some guys can, and most guys can't pull it off. So my man starts very physically fit already, has a great fighting background. So he gets into it, and he wouldn't talk to anybody because people that were doing interviews and stuff, they started reaching out like, who can I get? Well, Chris Cannon, he's been starting to be a buzz in our area. And out of nowhere, me and him connected at Kevin Landry's combine out of Holyoke, Massachusetts. Love me some Kevin Landry's. Oh my God, some good ass times there. But I go there, and now I kind of do whatever the talent wants to do. It's always off the cuff. I never do any research, at all, ever. I just go. I live a little bit dangerous. I hit the record button. Whatever this one brain cell I got left starts spitting out of my mouth is what kind of happens. And it turns into an interview. Somehow it's worked for me. I don't know how. Boys and girls, don't do it that way. I'm here to help you. I'm your friend. Don't do it that way. X on the way I do it. But Chris Cannon, as real as it gets. And I would get a lot of gimmick, trying to keep the gimmick alive, if you will, from talent that didn't want to do the pure shoot thing and just tell stories. Or I've gotten a mixture of both, or I've gotten just shoot. Well, Cannon, you couldn't tell either way, up, sideways, down. It did not matter. He's just, again, as legit as it got. So I think for me, that was why it was one of my favorite ones. And if you look back at it, and my first one was him, and episode 13, if you look back at this, I'm being such a jackass. I am telling you, and CJ, Mr. Price, he knows how I am at the shows. I am being my legit self jackass sitting next to this dude. Now, my stats are 5'10 and a half, 130. His stats are 6'4, 240. And I am just being a stupid idiot, and he's being as serious as it gets. And I thought it made for gold when I looked back at it. So whenever I sent them the link after I uploaded it to YouTube, I go, please watch this and let me know what you think. He goes, it looks like a comedy. I go, that's me. I go, watch you. I go, together, we are money, my man. I thought it was so much fun. He looked back at it. He gave me a better review. And that has been one of my most popular episodes ever.
That is awesome, man. That is awesome. And yes, I agree with you. Chris Cannon is the real deal, and I see him going bigger places. I know Big Muscat got a couple more questions, so go ahead, take it away, Vic.
Yeah, but Mr. Price, just to piggyback on the answer of yours, a statement. We don't have Chris Cannon in wrestling anymore. He kind of pushed it to the side. Maybe, 4, 5, 6 so months ago. Yeah, so we don't have no
Wow, I
more
wasn't
Chris Cannon.
informed, man. I apologize. Maybe he'll come back one day.
I hope so. Great talent. And I just wanted to clarify is all.
So you talked about, Chris Cannon being a cool guy. What are some of the interviews you've done that they've been like assholes?
Chris Cannon. Like legit. Because here's my second interview with him a year later. And I've had other fellow podcasters, interviewers. I've even had a younger guy that mentoring, if you will, because I would give him pointers on how to do stuff. And he was starting up and he would ask me questions and I would give him some advice and stuff. And he wanted to interview him so bad because he's never talked to anybody but me. So a year goes by, Chris reached out to me again and says, hey, I think I'm ready to talk. He goes, I'm sick of people asking me for an interview and me saying no. So I'm ready to talk. And this is what brings me to the asshole part of it. I met him again at Kevin Landry's Combine. Now, Kevin Landry's Combine is a huge second floor industrial area of just gym equipment with a wrestling ring, some boxing heavy bags, and a couple little rooms to where they can do, the business, if you will, for wrestling. But it's not just there for wrestlers. It's there for all sorts of athletes go there, world-class athletes, actually, that go there and work out and train for their sport. Well, I had to meet him there. And when I got there, I couldn't find him immediately. So I hear something grunting because you can hear him working out a mile away. This guy's working out. Now, I met him at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. He made me, because I wasn't going to tell him any different, because I'm built like a candle. He made me follow him during his workout, and that was our interview. I interviewed this guy during his workout. I've never done anything like that. I've never seen any interview like that, and I hope I'm the first. I hope it never even happens because I want to be the last. Dude, talk about a jackass. That guy was beat. He made me try to lift weights. Mr. Price, Mr. Muscat, he made me try. And I almost called you Mr. Muscat. I'm sorry, Mr. Muscat. He tried to make me work out with him. And I legit failed very hard because I suck at lifting weights because I do not. I am not athletic at all. He gave me a 45-pound dumbbell and told me to do some curls. My balls! That did not work out at all. So yeah, that was probably, if I had to label who was the biggest asshole, again, Chris Cannon, because he made me follow him around legit from workout, from spot to spot, follow him for this. And we did it probably for a good hour. And that was very interesting, I gotta say.
What do you think of the overall product today compared to the days of Bob Backlund, Hulk Hogan? Like, if you had to give it a grade, what would you give those days and what would you give today's?
I already spoke just a little bit on that, and I don't want to sound like Cornette because Some guys love that Coronet talk. Some guys really hate that Coronet talk. I find in between because, again, I can agree with so much because of the era that he grew up in, my era. And I can also not agree with a lot of the stuff that he says. But what he does that I do agree, it just makes so much sense. It's the storytelling, my man. It all comes back. That and what Chris Cannon was trying to project as a wrestler. It should look real. He was one of those guys that would make it legit. I always thought he was like a Dr. Schultz, Dr. D. David Schultz, because of his mentality. He had that old school mentality. It was kayfabe 100% of the time. It was when I get in that ring, I'm not going to fight a girl because that's, look at me, I don't want to fight a girl. That's not reality. You would never see that in the streets. He wanted to project reality. So I don't mean to use Chris Cannon as an example, but he's the closest to me in my time right now, and obviously my area, but that had that old school mindset of it needs to look real. Me going at him, doing a drop kick and sending him out the ring, that ain't gonna happen, my man. We're gonna figure something out to make it look real. So that is my biggest thing nowadays. And again, it's, the destroyers, the super kicks, it's the multitude of the finishers without a simple cover and a 1 count. It's stuff like that irks me about the newer era. And there's a place for it. And I'm not saying that I'm against that because I watch plenty of it. I see it on the indies. I see it on the TV. I see it at live events that I go to. But it's a lack of storytelling inside the ring. 6 guys jumping at each other, or a 6-guy scramble while 2 are doing stuff and the 6 are legit just leaning on the ring, looking inside the ring. I've seen that very recently. Not down with that. That's not my kind of wrestling. Don Morocco's and those guys, the Stan Hansons, they were in there to take their elbow and put it through your bleeping skull. That was their point of being in the ring because it was supposed to look real. And that's what they brought to the table. It was always a realness, a reality. Look at Ric Flair. We're talking about this era. Ric Flair was on the word kayfabe 1,000%. Never did he let off if he was walking into a convenience store buying a candy. He was still Ric Flair, wooing the crowd, messing with people. You know what I'm saying? And that's a lost art in today's wrestling. The manager, I know there's some managers that are in our area and such, but that's been of lost art over the course. Just giving us some solid storytelling. I miss that so much. Especially when it comes to the independents, because we know the independents are the minors. Where do they go? They end up on TV. And we're seeing that on AEW. And that's no slight to AEW saying that I don't want to see these kind of matches. Again, I like all sorts of wrestling. Give me multiple forms of the art of wrestling. I'm down with it. Deathmatch, hardcore, the flippy do stuff, luchador, the strong style. Give it. I don't care. I'm down. But if my preference, if you ask, it would be that old school telling the story, punching you in your fucking face. And it almost looked like, oh my God, Dad, that guy, is he going to be back next week? Because I think he's going to the local medical facility. So it's just that art, I guess, and I probably used the word storytelling 30 times already, but it's just that lost art of it that I feel today kind of needs, And hey, maybe some of us are already sick of the head of the table. Acknowledge me. But my word, if it's not a continual story that is making us hate this guy week after week, month after month, pay-per-view after pay-per-view, we are hating him more and more as time has gone. Remember when we hated him when he was a good guy because they shoved him down our throat? Well, now he's a fucking legit bad guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's a heel now. You can't put him on a fence anymore. He's telling us stories though. And I know I yammered. I'm sorry.
CJ, you have any more questions?
Just one last question for you, Don, and then we can let you go. Some things fans don't know about you is that you're also a musician. So I want to talk a little bit about that. I know it's not about wrestling, but I know your band's called what, High Octane or something?
Yeah, man. Okay. I'm high octane. You gotta say it with just a little pizzazz. Yeah, man. High octane, lots of fun. 80s hair band stuff. Whitesnake, Rat, Motley Crue, Scorpions, Poison, all of this stuff. We did a little Motorhead. We did a little Metallica. We did a lot of borderline stuff, if you will. But we would do one-off stuff like Kingdom Come, Get It On, Autograph, Turn Up the Radio, and we just had a lot of fun. I was in multitude of bands previous to that. We started in like 2000. We officially hit the road in 2010. We got together, jammed for about a year, 2009-ish, and then got on the road in 2010. Went on the road and stayed there pretty much for 5 solid years, and maybe slipped into 16 with one of the community shows that we used to do at Rockwell Park. But man, a lot of fun. Excuse me. A lot of good times. But I was the booker. I was the promoter. I was the poster guy. I was the PA guy, setting it up, doing sound on the fly. There was a lot of stress getting the show there built up before I even played my first note. Kind of wore on me a little bit. And so as the band kind of felt there was a fizzle, we split up, and it is what it is sometimes. Again, we had a lot of fun, met a lot of cool people, made some connections. There's even like a guy like Ron Zombie, who's in our local wrestling scene. Never knew it until I was hitting the scene hard. I actually jammed at Toad's place. Love that jam. It was High Octane's only time at Toad's. We were part of a festival, if you will. We were right before Nasty Disaster, Ron Zombie's original band that he's in. And my God, what a fantastic time that was. Took a lot of memories home with us, all of us. It was a 5-piece. We were supposed to do a reunion show. I'm not sure if that's going to maybe catch or not, because we all can't get on the same page, but we're going to see if we can maybe get that together and get a date or something. But if we do, it's definitely going to be Bleachers with another in Bristol. It's going to be with another band, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So we'll see where that goes.
Very nice, man. Very nice. We appreciate all of your time and all of your answers. And where can fans find you? Where can fans connect with you on the internet?
Well, there was that one time I was dumped in a dumpster by Aladdin, Yusuf 13, and I hate to say his name, the Warden. So you can sometimes find me in a dumpster, depending on what show you're at, because I do piss off the talent. But in all reality, you can find me on Facebook. It's Don Kincaid, very simple, Kincaid, like Reuben Kincaid from Partridge Family, or the infamous Ryan Frost's gonna kill me for that. The infamous potato chip, the Kincaid potato chip, good stuff. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, it's all the same stuff. The Kincaid Files. You can't miss me. I've got the same logo for it all. Oh wait, Instagram, I might be my stupid face. You can't miss that. And yeah, if you want to follow my stuff, please hit the old subscribe button. I'm on the brink, my man. I'm on the brink of like 9K subscribers. I don't know what the hell is going on. It's been
very
awesome. Yeah, so I've been celebrating some of the thousands, if you will, when it comes to 2,000-3,000 or whatever. I've been getting some talent on the show, and we've been having a lot of fun and celebrating the break of the thousands of subscribers. So I've just been having fun. Look the stuff up. I am always neutral. I don't care if you're white, black, if you're purple, green, tall, skinny, fat, short, tall. I don't give a shit. If you're pan, if you're gay, if you're bi, if you're straight, I don't care. I love all talent. I love to talk to the people. I love to get their stories. And I am at the shows that I can go to. And again, as we started this interview, it's all about fun when it comes to wrestling, my man.
Yes, sir. And we thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing all your stories
My
and
pleasure.
telling us a little bit about your life. And we just have one announcement to make, that if we reach 400 likes on our Facebook page, 5-Star Revolution Podcast, we're going to give away a $50 gift card to anywhere of your choice. So get to it.
Oh, wow. Oh, man. I got some thoughts already. Oh, wait, I can't. I'm not entering.
Any last words, Vic?
Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it, and good luck to your show.
Oh, no, thank you both, Mr. Price, Mr. Muscat, for the invite. Again, I was so honored to be reached out, seeing this project starting up. I wish you nothing but success, my friends. I've seen the talent you had on. I can't imagine. It's only gonna get better from here, man. And you've had some fine talent already. For me, myself, I cannot believe that I've been mixed up with the talent you've already had on. So I am absolutely honored that you guys invited me on, and absolutely nothing but success for the 5-Star Revolution podcast, my friends.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kincaid. Have a great night, man.
Hey, take
You
care.
too, my friend.
Bye-bye.